What's up guys, Jordan here from Team Eternal Hope, bringing you a deck profile of my Luard deck. It's been a while coming. I've been meaning to do this for a while, but I've entered it in a couple of tournaments, and the build I was playing was not really working out the way I wanted to, so I've changed it up a bit and I've found a build that's working for me at the minute. A couple of cards in the grade 2 slot are solely there for filler at the minute until I find something that I feel that suits me more. I was playing 10Ks originally, but they weren't really doing anything for me, so I decided to take them out. Everything out, every section of this deck I feel works perfectly fine. It literally is just the grade 2s that needs a little bit of working out and whatnot. It's basically the only part of the deck that I need to actually sit down and work on. So anyway, without further ado, let's get into the deck. As you saw, our starter is Pedigree Knight Tigris. The reason I'm playing this is because it... Anyway, I'll say what it does first. Counterblast 1, retire. Look at the top 7 cards of your deck for a unit with Claret Sword Dragon in its card name and add it to your hand. If you have a Claret Sword Dragon Vanguard, draw a card. The sole reason I'm playing this over, say, Creeping Duck Goat is because this searches top 7 and not top 5. Yes, this only searches for a Claret Sword Dragon, but I've found that this is a lot more helpful than Creeping Duck Goat. Plus the extra top 2 dip over the 5 that Goat gives you is a lot more helpful. And plus, if he's still on the board by the time you get to a Claret Sword Dragon Vanguard or whatnot, you draw an extra card. Plus, he's a normal unit as well, so you can shuffle him back into the deck with Luard if you really want to. And then if you are forced to ride a Claret Sword Dragon later on, you can then call him back out and again draw another card. So he helps the deck and whatnot. So I mean, of course, obviously I have whiffed with him a few times, but the plus side to him is that I haven't actually whiffed with him as much as what I have done when I've found Claret Sword Dragons. For Luard, it's a Luard deck, so you need Luard. I've played Vanguard since the beginning, since the release of TDO1 and TDO2, and then BTO1 and BTO2 and whatnot. I've played a lot of decks. This is by far my favourite that I've played since starting. The freedom the deck gives you and everything is just so much fun. There's so many different ways you can build this deck, and they're all just as good as the others. I mean, there might be some that are slightly better than others, but I personally feel like they're all just as equally as good. It just depends on people's player preferences and opinions and whatnot. So yeah, what Luard does, get back into the deck profile, is Ritual 3. Select 2 normal units from your drop zone and put them onto the bottom of your deck. At the beginning of your ride phase, that is. And then during that turn, the next time you would stride, you can stride without paying the cost to discard a card. And then his on-stride skill, is Counterblast 1, retire one of your rear guards and select up to 2 grade 1s or less from your deck and superior call them to rear guard. So he helps build your board. There's a lot of combos in this deck you can do with him. He's the toolbox, basically. He gets you your Belial, he gets you anything you need to help fix hand, like your Blackwing Swordbreakers, your boosters for when you want to finish your game off with Drag Strider and whatnot. So he's definitely by far the best grade 3 Shadow Paladin has at the minute, and I'm basically going to be playing this deck for a very long time. Anyway, next up we have 2 Claret Sword Dragon Revolt. I have used him. I have rode into him a few times. There have been times where I've seen him over Luard, and I've sat on him a few games. The deck doesn't really it slows down a bit if you haven't got Luard, but it doesn't completely grind to a halt. Obviously, you want Luard as your main grade 3, your first ride, and basically for the whole game. But there have been circumstances and instances where not having Luard, basically riding over Luard, is the better option. I was in a game against fellow teammate Nick, and I had just Luard, no rear guards or anything like that. So I used Luard's stride skill and then rode into him. Strode into drag driver, and then I was able to use his skill to then call me a dude and get me a perfect guard in hand, and then use strider's or driver's skill to then call me more dudes. I mean, I could have done it the other way, but at that point in the game I needed the power from driver to help me push potentially for game and whatnot. So anyway, what this guy does is Counterblast 1, when you stride, reveal the top card of your deck until 2 grade 1s are revealed, and then when 2 grade 1s are revealed, you put 1 into your hand and 1 into play. So if you reveal, say, a PG and a Blackwing Swordbreaker or something like that, you know, call the Blackwing, add a PG to hand, you know, you get Blackwing's effect or skill, so then you can add another one to hand and whatnot. And then his GB2 skill is, I've never actually used it, because to be honest, I forget he kind of has it from time to time. I'm going to admit that now. His other skill is GB2. When he's attacked, move a grade 1 from your rear guard to the Guardian Circle. And then once you've done that, if you have no other rear guards, he gains 2k for the end until the end of the turn. So he becomes a 13k base, which helps with guarding and whatnot. So, but like I say, I very rarely actually use him, but when I do, he's pretty decent to go into. And then last but not least, 1 OG, Claret Sword Dragon. I used the 1 OG because in circumstances where Revolt doesn't really help, he does better. What he does is unstride. Counterblast 1, search your deck for a grade 1 or 0 and call it, and it gains 2k power. So if you call, say, a trigger or something with it, then helps you hit more numbers and potentially makes you another column and whatnot. There was a time in the tournament I recently entered, I was playing again a teammate, James, and I literally had no board. He was playing Kagro. I had no board, 5 cards in hand, him being one of them, and Luard is my vanguard. I had him in my hand, Night Sky Eagle, 2 Belial Owls, and a Claret Sword Dragon crit. So what I did is I used Luard's skill to free stride, rode into him, strode into Drag Strider, used his on stride skill to then call another Claret Sword crit, called my second Claret Sword crit behind the other one, called the Night Sky Eagle behind the Strider, and then called the 2 Belial Owls. And then I swung with that because I have a Claret Sword Dragon Vanguard. I moved both crits into the Soul, draw 2 cards and gave him 10k. And then with Luard's skill, retired the 2 Belial Owls and then discarded the 2 cards I drew off of the Claret crits, putting me up to a 53k Drag Strider. Unfortunately, I did kind of still lose that game because Kagro have that ridiculous G guard that gains 10k for every open rear guard circle your opponent has. So but still, it was a decent play. His GB2 skill is you never use it. You know, it's GB2, retire 2 rear guards against 10k and a crit. That's basically it. Like you never really use it. Well, I've never done it anyway. I mean, there might be circumstances where, like, you are forced to, like, you can't stride or anything like that, because obviously these don't have free stride. So, but anyway, yeah. On to grade 2s. Again, this is where the deck kind of like, where I'm having most trouble with the deck, finding a lineup that I actually like. 4 Morfessa. 4 Morfessa is staying, and so is the next card, to be fair. Morfessa's amazing. I love this card. I'm probably always going to play her at 4 unless we get something much better, which is going to be kind of difficult because she's just that good. She's Generation Break 1, Ritual 3. When she attacks a Vanguard, she gains 5k. On hit, she Counterblast 1 and Call a Grade 1. So the Counterblast 1 is nice. I don't really use it unless I'm really forced to. Like, I've been into a Strider before, I've swung with her and my opponents let her go through, saving guard up for the Strider and whatnot, and then I've used her on hit skill to Counterblast 1 to call a Night Sky Eagle behind my Strider, just to help me then potentially hit bigger numbers with the Strider and whatnot and push for game. But the reason why she's so good is because of her second skill, which is Generation Break 1. When she's in the drop zone, she gets grade -1. So she helps fuel Ritual and whatnot. And if you're playing Ursius, you can then put her back because she acts as a grade 1 in the drop zone. So 3 noise. Is it noise or however you pronounce it? I'm not gonna lie. When I first saw this card, I was thought, oh, it's a weaker Morfessa. I'm not gonna like it, but now that I have it, I absolutely love this card. If I had 4, I would play 4, but perfectly fine with 3. What it does is Ritual 3 on call, look at the top 5 cards of your deck and call a grade 1 or 0. If it's a grade 1, I believe it gains 2k, and then if the card has Ritual, it gains another 2k. So altogether it gains 5k, which is the main reason I thought it was just a weaker Morfessa. But and then at the end of the turn, the card called with this unit goes to the bottom of the deck. But what I found with this is that if you don't have any open counterblast and you go into something like Drag Strider or Carnivore Dragon or something like that, and you call an Abyssal Owl off of him, you can then retire that Abyssal Owl with, say, your, again, Strider or Carnivore Dragon to then open you up a counterblast ready for next turn and whatnot. So, I mean, there's a couple of times off this I got Mage of Rogue, I believe it is, that count. It's the sand trigger that counts as 2. Yes, you don't get any power or anything like that, but you're still getting 2 retires and a trigger that recycles itself and whatnot. So, the best thing about this card is that it's free, and it helps you make plays and fills up your board for, say, your Strider turns and whatnot. Next, we come on to the filler card, 2 Leofel. I do really like this card, but I feel like there is better cards out there. So, like I say, he's just in here for filler at the minute. But what he does anyway, he's Generation Break 1, Soul Blast 1, and retire the unit in the same column as him if you do draw a card. So he's alright if you have a Belial Owl behind him. He's Soul Blast 1, retire the Belial, draw 1 of him, Belial Owl skill, draw another one. And then his Ritual 3 skill, which is pretty much the only reason you ever use him, which is he gains 2k on attack. Is it attack Vanguard? Yeah, when he attacks the Vanguard. But still, you know, he's an 11k, so he can hit Vanguard by himself. So if you use his skill to draw your card, you know, he can then still hit your opponent's Vanguard by himself. So, and then we come on to the MVP of the grade 2 slots. This card is amazing. I'm not going to lie, again, I didn't really... I like this card, you know, I always plan to play at least 1, but then from the previous tournament I entered, I had to bump it up to at least 2 because this card is insane. Ritual 3, counterblast 1 at the end of your turn, retire one of your rear guards. And then retire all cards in the same column as this card on your opponent's board. So if your opponent has two rear guards in the same column as this, you know, you retire them. And it gets around resist as well, which is really nice because it doesn't target. So the combo I like doing with this is during my end phase, I counterblast 1, retire a Belial Owl, retire my opponent's column, and then draw 1 off the Belial Owl. And because it's technically still the end phase, I can then put Belial Owl back to the bottom. So technically, I've just +1 off of her with the draw, and I haven't lost a Belial Owl. I've lost it off field, but it doesn't matter because you want them into your drop zone, so you can just constantly keep recycling them anyway. So, and the best thing about her is she's not Generation Break. So if you get to Ritual 3 beforehand, you can then start nuking your opponent's rear guards and whatnot. There was one game where I nuked about 3 columns. I mean, I'd use Dismal to protect her in certain matchups, depending on, you know, what my opponent has and whatnot. So that's the main reason I bumped her up to 2. 1 was fine, but 2, you know, I'm going to be seeing her a lot more, and she's very, very helpful in matchups. Grade 1s for Ezra's, in my opinion, the best perfect guard in the game. The most free, recyclable perfect guard in the game. So standard perfect guard, you know, if your Vanguard's being attacked, discard a card and nullify the attack. But then it's Ritual 3, Generation Break 1. If you have select 1 in the drop zone, retire 1 of your rear guards and send that copy to the bottom of the deck, and then add the other one to hand. So if you retire a Belial Owl, you know, you're getting a PG to hand, PG to bottom, and you're drawing a card. If you're retiring a Rogue Guy, for example, you're then shuffling that stand trigger back into deck to then potentially, you know, get you another trigger back into deck. But it's very, very hard, you know, to deck out with this build or deck and whatnot, because of the amount of times you're putting cards back into your deck and stuff like that. So, for Abyssal Owl. Abyssal Owl is amazing. I'm always going to be playing him at 4. People play him at 2, people play him at 3. I personally will always play him at 4. Yes, you can tutor him out, but there's a chance that they could go to damage. You could draw them. Yes, you don't mind drawing them, but you'd rather call them off of Luard once you've got a Luard Vanguard and you've started striding and whatnot. But what he does is when he's called from hand, look at the top 7 cards of your deck for a Luard, add it to hand. You may add it to hand. If you do, discard cards from your hand that equal grade 3 or more. So you can use him to filter. If you've called him from hand and you find a grade 3 Luard, you can just ditch that straight to the drop zone. But the best thing about him is if he's retired from a Luard Vanguard or Luard unit, basically your grade 3 or any of your strides, if you have a Luard Vanguard, you counter charge 1. That's ritual 3, but he counts towards his own ritual as well. So if you have 2 in the drop zone, you still counter charge even if you retire him. So, and then we come on to the 3 Night Sky Eagle. I was originally playing 2, but they kept, I never saw them. They always went to drop zone and whatnot. So, and 3 just seems to be working much better. It's a very simple skill. G-Range Break 1, once it's called, gains 4k, so it becomes an 11k booster. This is the card that helps you make big numbers with your Strider and helps your Strider push the game and whatnot. So putting these back with Luard's Stride skill or free Stride skill Ritual skill is very, very helpful and useful. 2 Stride Fodder. Self-explanatory. I'm running Cleric Sword Dragon in here. So if I've got a Revolt and I need the old school one, I can just call this and search out and whatnot. And plus it's, if I'm riding, going first and I don't have a grade 3 or anything, I have one of these, it just helps. It helps fuel ritual, helps me stride and whatnot. So, and then 1 Swordbreaker. Swordbreaker self-explanatory. When it's placed on rear guard from deck, Soul Blast 1, draw a card. And then we come on to probably one of my favourite grade 1s. Drag Wizard Semius. Generation Break 1, Ritual 3, Counter Blast 1, when she's placed on rear guard, so from hand or deck. If you have a Luard Vanguard, you may pay the cost. If you do, look at the top 2 cards of your deck and call them to separate rear guard circles. And then at the end of the turn, retire those. Do you have to retire her? At the end of the turn, retire the units called with this effect. Oh, yeah, okay. So you retire her and the units called with her. So she, basically, if you're going into a Strider turn, call her off Luard, Counter Blast 2, you're then getting another 2 dudes and whatnot. So, I mean, if you get say, a Noise, you can then use Noise's skill to then look for another one. Another rear guard off the top of your deck and whatnot. So she can potentially fill you up a whole board just off 1 Counter Blast. So, onto the triggers, we have the 4 standard Belial Owls. When it's retired from a card effect, if you have a Luard Vanguard, draw a card. At the end of your turn, Ritual 3. If it's in your drop zone and you have a Luard Vanguard, shove it to the bottom of the deck. These stack, so if you have all 4, you can shove all 4 to the bottom of your deck. And then we have the Cleric Sword Dragon crit. 4. If you have when your Cleric Sword Dragon Vanguard attacks, slide him into Soul. Give it 5k, draw a card. So it helps for your Soul, helps draw you cards for your Strider turns. This guy is the main reason I don't run that many draw triggers. So, as I said, 2 draw triggers. The deck draws a hell of a lot as it is. Plus you have, as again I say, you have the Belial Owls, you have the Cleric Sword crit. So, but this is the Margle clone, shoves it into Soul. I would run Hollow Howl Owls, but the artwork on this is just too nice. You have to run it. Plus it's a Drag Wizard. So 2 Mage of Rogue Eye Ashera, however you pronounce it. This stand trigger is really good. Only run 2. Don't really feel the need to run any more. It basically recycles itself. And you can call it out with Luard or whatever. Basically what it is Generation Break 1. while retiring it. It counts as 2. And when it's retired, you shuffle it back into your deck. So recycling cards are always nice. And then we have the 4 hill triggers. I don't run the Fighters Collection G-Guard. I just run them because they're pretty and they're hollow. So on to the G-Zone. We have 2 Drag Strider Luard. I love this card. This card's amazing. He's Ritual 7. On attack, retire 2 of your rear guards. Discard as many cards from your hand as you want as possible. Discard as many cards as you want from your hand. He gains 3k for each. And then if at least 2 were discarded, he gets grade plus. He gets drive +1, critical +1, and your opponent card with grade 1s or higher. So he's your main finisher of the deck. He's mainly you gonna want Night Sky Eagle behind him to help push them extra numbers. You know, Night Sky Eagle behind him is a 37k column. You know, discarding 2 guards, that's a 43k column. That's like massive already as it is there. So no, he's your main finisher. Plus, again, he's a quad drive, so he's getting you extra cards into your hand. You know, having cards in hand in Vanguard is very, very good. Next, we come on to 4 Drag Driver. I'm going to get a lot of hate for this. I know I am. And, you know, throw all the hate you want at me. I don't care. I love this card. This card is amazing. People don't play it because they don't like it. I personally don't see why. They're like, oh, if you have board clear, you know, you just use Fodler and whatnot. But it's like, if you have no Fodlers, if they're in your drop zone, if you're in your damage zone and whatnot, you know, then you're basically just without a board at that point. Whereas he solves that problem. I understand why people say, you know, he's pointless if you're only calling the 1. But again, if that 1 you're calling is this girl, you know, you call her, use her skill to then call another 2. And then if, say, you get a Belial out off of her, you can then use Luard's on-stride skill to then counterblast 1, retire him, retire the Belial out, to call 2 more grade 1s, and draw a card as well. So, you know, there's, like, plays you can make even without a board and whatnot, thanks to this card. So for a Soul Blast 1 and a Counterblaster 2, basically, you know, you're filling up your board. And that board could be anything, basically, so it doesn't really matter. But, he's not a threatening strike by himself. Like, he's only a 26k, but the numbers you put behind him make him good. He's Ritual 3, Soul Blast 1 when placed on Vanguard. Flip a face down card face up. So one of these, you know, anything. And then you search your deck for grade 1s equal to the face up number of these you have face up. So if you stride into him and you have 3 face up, you know, you call 3. And then they each gain 1k for each grade 1 in your drop zone. So he can help your cards hit. He can help your grade 1s hit huge numbers. So if you have 7, you know, all your grade 1s are now 14k. All your Night Sky Eagles are now 18k. You know, put an 18k behind him. That's what? That's 30, 36, 44k. You know, yes, he's not gaining a crit or anything like that, but 44k is still a big number. You know, and if you're forced to go in him late game, you know, 44k during the late game can potentially be really hard to guard. So next up we have Ogma. Ogma's clutch. I've used him a hell of a lot over the past few games I've played and whatnot. I love this card. He's Ritual 5, Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, flip a face down card face up. Retire up to 5 grade 1s from your rear guard. Your opponent selects up to the same number of cards from their hand or field and sends them to the drop zone. So if they've got 2 on board, they have to select, they can select those 2 and then 3 from hand, or they can send all 5 from hand and whatnot, and so on and whatnot. And if 3 or more were sent, you draw a card. So he could potentially be a board wipe. He could completely wipe your opponent's hand. You know, if you're playing Tachikaze or card decks that don't really have a board, normally, you know, he's a very good card to go into. Plus, he doesn't get around resist, which is something I realised, you know, after ages of playing this deck, you thought I'd realise that. But he doesn't get around resist, which is really nice. So if your opponent's got a full board of resist, you know, you go into him, and it's like, okay, you now have to get rid of cards from hand. So he's a really nice card. You know, if people say the resource cost for him is too high, I personally feel, you know, if he's in a situation to use him, the cost is perfectly fine. 2 Spectral Blaster Diablo. He's another finisher. He's a restander. He's Soul Blast 1. Generation... no, he's not Generation Break on the first one, sorry. Soul Blast 1. Retire one of your rear guards. Choose a face down card in your G zone and flip it face up. And then his other skill, which is he gains from activating the first skill, which is Generation Break 3. Counterblast 2. At the end of the attack, retire 2 of your rear guards. And he gets grade -2 and restands. So he's a restander. He's very nice. He was the original finisher bar Phantom Blaster Diablo, but I personally prefer him. Plus now we have Drag Strider to help fill Phantom Blaster's role. So we have 1 Doomed and 1 Aurogeyser. Doom's pretty much always my first stride in this deck. Excuse me. Counterblast 1. Choose 3 rear guards and retire them. Select the Aurogeyser Dragon and flip it face up. Reveal the top 2 cards of your deck. For every grade 1 or less, retire one of your opponent's rear guards. The amount of times of this guy I've gotten 2 grade 2s or 2 grade 3s or a grade 2 and a grade 3 and whatnot is absolutely ridiculous. You know, and Aurogeyser is only in here just, you know, for Doomed and whatnot. Carnival Dragon. Carnival Dragon's in here for filler because I'm not sure if I want to put in another Aurogeyser Dragon or if I want to put Seabreeze in here or something like that. If I put in a second Aurogeyser Dragon in here, it will literally be only for the matchups where my opponent doesn't have a board and Doomed doesn't feel good enough to go into, sort of thing. So, but anyway, what Carnival Dragon does is he's retire one of your rear guards, and your opponents must select 2 of their rear guards and retire them. If they do not, your front row gains 4k, essentially. So he's free. So if you do call a Abyssal Owl, you know, you can retire the Abyssal Owl and open it up a counter blast if you don't have any open and whatnot. So he's nice. He also gets... Also, if your opponent has 2 rear guards and one of them is resist, they have to retire the 1. And because they haven't fulfilled the condition, your front row gains 4k. So 3 Plotmaker Dragon. Not much to say about this game. Ritual 3 gains 10k shield. The most broken G-Guard in the game, in my opinion. Well, one of them anyway. It's free. So what can you say? And then Dismal. To protect your rear guards, protect your Aulnar, protect your Morphesses. Basically to protect anything that's going to help you mess up your opponents, again, such as your Aulnars and whatnot. So that's the deck. Like I said, the grade 2 slots, the grade 2 game is where the deck needs work, in my opinion. But, you know, set 14 has been announced to have Shadow Paladin support, and we're getting Ritual support. So hopefully that gives us a decent grade 2 and whatnot. But we'll just have to wait and see. So that's my Luard deck, guys. You know, if you have any criticisms or questions about the deck, you know, just hit me up, message me down below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Peace out.